Rearranging Formula. This BeeBusinessBee video is going to take you through the concept of rearranging formulas, something you may come across normally in maths. However, in a business studies exam you possibly could be asked to do this when you've been given a break-even formula and asked to find the missing variable that you've not been provided with. Hopefully after watching this video you can go through the short steps I'm going to show you and you'll be feeling confident and comfortable in doing this exact concept. Let's remind ourselves what the break-even formula is. Remember, to find a break-even point we need to know fixed costs divided by the selling price minus the variable costs. Now remember, the bit in brackets we always do first as part of the BODMAS approach. So for example, let's do an example we're going to use all the way through this video. So using the fixed cost divided by the selling price minus variable costs, I'm going to use £5,000 in fixed costs, £10 as selling price and £5 as my variable cost. 10 minus 5 obviously gives me 5. 5,000 divided by 5 gives me 1,000 units. So we know now the break-even point in this business is 1,000 units. We're going to use the data we've calculated here all the way through the calculations we're going to use, so you can always check back and know if you got the answer right. Okay, let's look at a question you may see in an exam. Find the variable costs if a business has the following information. So you're given the break-even point of 1,000, the fixed cost of 5,000, and the selling price of £10. If you want, you can pause the video now and have a go at this question and see if you can find the answer before I show you how you can do the working. Okay, what we need to do firstly is actually rearrange the formula so we can find the variable cost. So remember, what we're going to do now is put X in for our missing variable. I'd advise you do this because it makes it simpler to follow the pattern. So for example now, a break-even point equals the fixed costs divided by the selling price minus X. Let's add some numbers in now for step 2. So let's take our 1,000, which we've got as our break-even point. We know 5,000 is our fixed costs, and we know that £10 is our selling price. But we don't know what our variable cost is. It's X. There we are, we've got step 2, we've set it out nice and neat. Now we need to do what's called multiplying out the brackets. We want to remove the brackets. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to multiply 1,000 by 10, and 1,000 by X. 1,000 times 10 gives me 10,000, and notice it's minus X. So 1,000 times minus X gives me 1,000X, and it's a minus. And of course that then equals 5,000. Now in step 4 we're going to go down the route which all mathematicians talk about, which is called changing the side, changing the sign. Now we want to get X on its own side, and that means we've got to move that 10,000 over. Now if you notice, the 10,000 there is a positive 10,000. If we're going to move it onto the other side of the equation, it's going to become a negative. So what we're actually left with now is minus 10,000x equals 5,000 minus 10,000. Because remember, we move positive to a negative side, so positive 10,000 becomes a negative 10,000. Of course, when I solve that then, I get minus 1,000x equals minus 5,000. And of course, the beauty of this is that we've got two minuses. If you notice, we've got minus 1,000x and minus 5,000. What we can do by a rule of maths, and I'm not quite sure why it works, but we can just ignore the negatives. So of course we get 1,000x equals 5,000. And now we're close to solving our equation. Okay, we want to find X on its own, so once again we're going to do change the side, change the sign. But it's really simple now. We know that 1,000x means 1,000 times by X equals 5,000. Because it's times on that side, we're going to move it to the side. The opposite of times is divide. So X is going to be 5,000 divided by 1,000. And if we do that calculation, X equals 5. There we go. We know the answer is correct because we've worked it out before. We can see that we've calculated. What I've done there is I've shown you the full steps of calculation that I've gone through so you can follow it through. But remember, the golden rule there is change the side, change the sign. All I've done is moved it around. And if you think about it, because we had two negatives, I could drop that negative to solve the problem. There you go. We have solved it. We have found out there what our variable cost is per unit. Now let's see if we can do it for the selling price and find the missing data. So the break-even point is 1,000, the fixed cost of 5,000, and the variable cost this time of 5, which we worked out before. So now we need to rearrange the formula so we can find the selling price. So this time we've got break-even point equals fixed cost divided by X, which is going to be our selling price, minus our variable costs. So now we need to multiply out the brackets. So we've got 10,000 equals 5,000 brackets, so divided by brackets X minus 5. So let's get rid of the brackets. So we've got 1,000 times X gives us 1,000X. And 1,000 times minus 5 gives us minus 5,000. So we end up with 1,000x minus 5,000 equals 5,000. Now we need to get x on its own. Now remember, we've got to do the change the side, change the sign policy. So we've got x on one side, so let's keep 1,000x on one side. And we want to move our minus 5,000 over to the other side. So 5,000 plus 5,000, because remember it was a minus on that side, so it's got to be a positive on this side. Change the side, change the sign, makes it 10,000. So now we've got 1,000x equals 10,000. Now we want to find x on its own. So once again, we're going to do change the side, change the sign. So 1,000x equals 10,000. Of course, what that means is 1,000 multiplied by x. So we now need to do the opposite of multiply, which is divide. So x equals 10,000 divided by 1,000, and that means if we do the calculation that x must equal 10. Of course we know this is correct because we calculated the formula right at the start of the video, and there is the calculations that we used to work out this formula we just done to work out the selling price, and as you can see we get 10. So x is 10. Lastly, we might get a question that says, find the fixed costs if a business has got the following information. For example, a break-even point of 1,000, a selling price of £10, and a variable cost of £5. Now this is one of the more easier ones to solve, but first we've got to rearrange the formula. So the break-even point equals X, which is now going to replace our fixed costs, divided by the selling price minus the variable costs. So what we're going to do first in step 2 now to make our life easier, solve the part in brackets. We know 10 minus 5. If we put the numbers in there, 1,000 equals x divided by the selling price minus variable cost, which is 10 minus 5. So let's do it. 1,000 equals x divided by 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. Now we need to solve the equation, and this is really simple now. We've got to do exactly the same policy again, change the side, change the sign. So on one side, of course, it was divide, so we need to move it over to the other side to get x on its own, which means multiply. So 1,000 multiplied by 5 will give us x, so that means that 1,000 times by 5 gives us 5,000. And there we now have a correct answer. We find out that our fixed costs are £5,000. As simple as that. We've rearranged the formula to find the missing gaps. All that has been done by using our calculation earlier and just rearranging the formula. That's it. You should now be able to rearrange the break-even formula and find the missing parts of the equation if you're asked to do that. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. It's at BeeBusinessBee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/BeeBusinessBee. And don't forget there's full resources and quizzes on my website, beebusinessbee.co.uk. And don't forget to tweet me if you've got any more questions. Hopefully you now understand how to rearrange equations. If you're not sure, have a go again. And then maybe work out your own break-even formula and try and rearrange it to fill in the blanks, just like I did at the start of this video.